Let's agree that the VP debate between Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance probably didn't affect the outcome of the 2024 election. Polls from Politico, CBS, and CNN showed that viewers thought it was a tie, and only 1% claimed that it changed their mind, which is dubious since that would represent a record impact for a VP debate. But that doesn't mean it wasn't eye-opening. In fact, the debate teed up a number of tantalizing questions about the near-term future of American politics. So, here are the top 5. Will Trump's mental triggers be his undoing again? Former President Donald Trump has a glass jaw. In the presidential debate, Kamala Harris showed how easy it was to shatter it. But for the most part, Trump's allowed campaign surrogates to clean up the shards and retcon his views and his truly unhinged statements. But there's one mental bugaboo he's never been able to shake, the big lie fantasy that he won the 2020 election. And it may cost him yet again. Vance was dominating in the first half of the debate and neatly sanitizing even Trump's most inane ideas. For example, Trump's economic plan would actually blow inflation through the roof. And Vance might have gotten away with a full-bore extreme makeover Trump edition if it weren't for one Trump mental landmine he had to tiptoe around. As Republican political strategist Nicole Wallace noted, J.D. Vance was still unable to say that Trump lost the election in 2020. And in that moment, I think everything that he did for 88 minutes was lost and wiped out by that inability to tell the truth. There was even an obvious answer to give, by the way. He could have said, Joe Biden is the president. That's the reality. Even though I agree with Donald Trump that there were shenanigans in the 2020 election. That would have been pretty straightforward. But he was too afraid of Trump's rage to take that path. And his viral damning non-answer may have sapped away any election benefit from his performance. Number 2, did Vance just make himself the MAGA heir apparent? There have actually been 2 campaigns underway in 2024, the election campaign and a shadow campaign for who will lead the Republican Party if Trump loses. Vance managed to play a little three-dimensional chess across both of those in the debate. He was making the best possible case he could for Trump while also positioning himself as the Republican leader of the future. Between his smooth, zealous defense of Trumpism and his strategic displays of warmth, for example, his concern for Tim Walz's son, his attempt to empathize with women who died while seeking health care, his Me Too man self-deprecation, Vance managed a whiff, just a whiff, of George W. Bush's compassionate conservatism theme from 2000. Even if Democrats thought it was disingenuous, with much justification, I mean, let's be clear, he was mostly cosplaying someone who had concern for other people. It worked for a Republican audience, and what other Republican can now so credibly claim to bridge the MAGA faction and old school conservatives, and have also demonstrated some ability to go toe-to-toe with Democrats on the biggest stage. Republican donors and party leaders are privately desperate for Trump to lose so they can turn the page. They're in the market for a new horse to bet on, and Vance just gave himself the inside lane. But that brings us to item number 3. Did Vance lose by winning? When you have a malignant narcissist as your boss, no matter how well you do with the audience of millions, you still have to win over your mercurial, vindictive audience of 1. And on that score, Vance may have catch-22'd himself. Trump will not react well to the literally thousands of news analyses extolling how much better a Trump salesman Vance is than he is. He has been upstaged bigly. Plus, if there's one thing in life as certain as death and taxes, it's that if Trump loses this election, he is going to blame someone else. The most convenient scapegoat would be, of course, J.D. Vance. And that would fit Trump's lifelong pattern of knifing everyone who has ever stood with him as soon as they realized that he was deranged. That's a long list, by the way. He's also knifed everyone who's of no further use to him, like all the small business contractors that he's stiffed. And make no mistake, Trump can still impose the political death penalty on Vance among his MAGA supporters. So this VP debate may have been Vance's Icarus moment, soaring to his greatest height, only to be melted by the orange fireball above. Number 4, did Democrats rediscover a powerful issue? Vice President Kamala Harris's ascension to the top of the Democratic ticket brought a tonal shift away from President Biden's soul of the nation rhetoric toward a softer contrast between forward-looking joy and Republican weirdness. Harris has essentially dropped a lot of the attack on Trump as a threat to democracy. But given that the single moment that scored most heavily for Walz was that exchange about January 6th, and that the moment seemed to resonate with undecided swing voters, Democrats might well take a second look. In fact, Kamala Harris is already running ads showing that moment and reinvigorating the democracy and insurrection theme. There's definitely been good reason so far for the Harris campaign to hesitate about emphasizing this issue because polls show that voters are split on which candidate actually represents a threat to democracy. I know, that's insane. But the views on the far more concrete issue of the insurrection are different. 79% of non-MAGA Republicans disapprove of the actions of the attackers. And no, I don't know what to say about the other 21%. I don't know what to say if you approve of that. The phrase, "Did Trump lose the 2020 election?" is trending on social media. So don't be surprised to see the Harris campaign lean back into Trump's violent election subversion. And finally, will we see a back to the future approach on debates and political content overall? Presidential debates are pretty terrible. They're never great. They're not even particularly useful. They're designed by TV networks as cage matches that serve the interests of the media companies, not voters. Trump has made them even more awful, but the VP debate was refreshingly civil. And while the candidates were not always truthful, and by which I mean Vance was not always truthful. Vance was frequently not truthful. Vance did a lot of lying. I'm not going to euphemize this. Vance lied a lot. But still, the discussion was definitely substantive. And here's the interesting part. Everyone benefited from that. Both Walz and Vance improved their approval ratings by more than 10 points. Walz took some flack from Democrats for not attacking more, but his approach paid extra dividends. 1 in 5 Trump supporters developed a favorable view of him. Now, both parties are surely going to study the results carefully. Is it too much to hope that they and the media companies who have undergone a catastrophic decline in trust across all Americans, is it too much to hope that they'll internalize the lesson that Americans will actually reward more substance, more grace, more moments like J.D. Vance trying to show some empathy toward Tim Walz's son for witnessing a shooting at a community center? Right now, trust in our media institutions is at record low. It has absolutely plummeted. Take a look at the graph of Gallup polling that I'm going to put into my article. The belief has been among media companies that they need to stage debates like the presidential debate. In the age of Trump, people reward more WWE style fights and diss wars and put downs and name calling and all the stuff that Trump has put on steroids. What if maybe that's wrong? What if in the long term, what people are hungry for is something with a little bit more substance? And look, again, I don't want to undersell the fact that there was a lot of lying going on from J.D. Vance, but they were at least talking about issues. They were at least, they got into a debate about gun control policy in Finland, for goodness sakes. There's no way to say that's not substantive. Is it possible that the media companies and the candidates will notice that what voters want, what Americans want, is a little bit more elevated and a little bit more full of substance? So there you go. Those are my top 5 questions coming out of this. We've got 30 days left to go. Everything is at stake. Everything is on the line.